This is lesson 1.6, describing pairs of angles. So we're going to start with a bunch of different relationships. Complementary and supplementary angles are describing pairs of angles that add to a specific amount. So complementary angles are two angles that add to 90 degrees. We call them complements of each other. And supplementary angles are two angles that add to 180 degrees, and we call them supplements of each other. So here we have two separate angles. 115 plus 65 does in fact equal 180, so they're supplementary. And here we have a straight angle that's been divided into two. We know a straight angle adds to 180, therefore 3 and 4 here would add to 180. Same thing here. These two angles that are random add to 90 together, so they would be called complementary. Whereas this, we have perpendicular lines, so we know that it's a right angle inside, so if that gets split, the two angles have to add to 90 degrees. Adjacent angles are angles that share a common vertex and side, but don't have anything else in common. So they don't overlap each other. So here, these two angles, angle 5 and angle 6, are adjacent because they share this side and this vertex, but no part of angle 5 is inside of angle 6 and vice versa. Angle 7 and angle 8 here are not adjacent angles. They don't share anything in common, so they're not adjacent. All right, so in this figure, we're going to name a pair of complementary angles, a pair of supplementary angles, and a pair of adjacent angles. So for complementary, we're looking for two angles that add to 90. So I can eliminate the 127 because that's already bigger than 90. So let me check the 37 and the 53. So 37 plus 53 does in fact equal 90. So those two angles are complementary, and I would name them angle CAB and angle RST. All right, for a pair of supplementary angles, we're looking for two that add to 180. So I'm going to probably pick the biggest one here, 127, and I know that these don't add to 180 because it didn't make a straight line. So I'm going to check 127 and 53. And there we go. They add to 180. So that's angle CAD and angle RST. Adjacent means they shared a side and a vertex. So the only two angles that I see next to each other are here. They both have vertex A, and they both use side AC. So that's angle CAB and angle CAD. All right, do the check-in, pause it, and when you're ready, play to see your answer. All right, so we have our complementary angles, angle FGK and angle GKL. We have our supplementary angles, angle HGK and angle GKL. Our adjacent angles, angle FGK and angle HGK. As to whether angle KGH, so KGH, the one in here, and LKG, the one over here, are adjacent, no. They did share this side, but they had different vertices. So that was no. And then it asks about angle FGK. So FGK was here, and FGH. FGH was this whole thing. So they overlapped each other. So that was no as well. All right. In our next example, we have angle 1 is a complement of angle 2. Measure of angle 1 is 62 degrees. Let's find the measure of angle 2. So complementary equals 90. So I'm going to make an equation where measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 is 90. So that's 62 degrees plus the measure of angle 2 equals 90. We can subtract 62 from both sides. And we get the measure of angle 2 is 28 degrees. All right, try the check-in, pause it, and when you're ready, play to see your answer. All right, so supplement means supplementary, so we add to 180. So the measure of angle 3 plus 47 equals 180. We get the measure of angle 3 is 133 degrees. All right, when viewed from the side, the frame of the ball return or net forms a pair of supplementary angles with the ground. So they're telling us supplementary. So these two angles, this looks like this. So we have these two angles here. So supplementary means adds to 180, so we will add them to 180. All right, combine our like terms. We get 5x plus 10. Okay, we can solve. Divide by 5, and we get x is 34. What it asks us to find are the measures of the two angles, so I have to substitute it back in. So that's going to be 4 times 34 plus 8, and that's going to be 34 plus 2. So the measure of angle BCE is 144 degrees, and the measure of angle ECD is 36 degrees. All right, you go ahead and try this one with complementary angles. Find the measure of each angle, pause it, and play to hit play to see your answers. All right, so we solve equal to 90. We get x is 7, and then I would substitute 7 back into both of the angles. We get the measure of angle LMN is 26 degrees, and the measure of angle PQR is 64 degrees. So now we're going to look at some more relationships beyond complementary, supplementary, and adjacent. We have something called a linear pair and something called vertical angles. So if I have adjacent angles that their non-common sides make a line, a straight angle, opposite rays, whatever you want to call it, those are called a linear pair. And it says the angles in a linear pair are supplementary angles. That right there is called the linear pair postulate, saying that the angles are supplementary if they're a linear pair is the linear pair postulate. And then vertical angles are formed when their sides form opposite rays. So what that really means is if I were to draw the sides of angle 3 here, and I extend it, and I take the other side of angle 3, and I extend it, it formed angle 6 over here. So angle 3 and angle 6 are vertical angles, and so are angle 4 and angle 5. According to the vertical angle theorem, I'm just going to abbreviate there, vertical angles are congruent, which means they're equal. So if I knew that those two angles were, like if I knew angle 3 was 40 degrees, I would automatically know angle 6 was 40 degrees. So let's just identify linear pairs of vertical angles in our figure. So a linear pair, again, has to be a straight line for the two angles. So let's say I were to draw this straight line. I see this line splits that straight line into two angles. So angle 4 and angle 5 would be a linear pair. I also could have drawn a different straight line, like this one, and this would split it, so angle 1 and angle 4 would be called a linear pair. For vertical angles, I only really have one pair in this picture. If I make the sides of 1 and go past it, that's one side of 1, that's the other side of 1, it made angle 5. So angle 1 and angle 5. The reason there's no more is if I tried to make the sides of any other angle, I mean technically there's one here, but let's say we tried to make the sides of 2, it went through angle 4, it didn't make angle 4. So I wouldn't be able to name any other vertical angles. Oh, lost it. All right, so try the check-in, pause, and when you're ready to see your answers, hit play. All right, so we had 8 different linear pairs. You only really had to name one. So if you had any one of these 8, your answer is correct. And then here we have 4 different pairs of vertical angles. Again, you only needed to give us one. I'm going to add a little question to this now for you to think about. If I told you that the measure of angle 4 was 115 degrees, which other angle would also be 115 degrees? So we know when I'm looking for angles that are the same, I'm looking for angles that are congruent, and the angle that's congruent to angle 4 would be angle 2 because they were vertical angles. So angle 2 would also be 115 degrees. All right, 2 angles form a linear pair. The measure of one angle is 5 times the measure of the other angle. Find the measure of each angle. So if I know my first angle is something, it's x. My second angle is going to be 5 times that measure. So 5 times means multiplication. We can call it 5x. So now, if they're a linear pair, we know that means they're supplementary. So I'm going to take x plus 5x and equal to 180. So we get x is 30. And if it wants us to find the measure of each angle, I would put it back. First one would be 30 degrees, and the second one is 5 times 30, or 150 degrees. You could try the last problem, pause it now, and when you have your answer, hit play to see it. All right, let's check our answers. We know the first one would be x. If the second one is twice that, it's 2x. And they told us complementary. They were complements, so they add to 90. So again, we get x is 30, but when I put it back in, I get 30 degrees and 60 degrees. And that is 1/6 angle relationships.